What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Q&A number 10. This Q&A is about hobbies and procrastination, two things that are often intertwined. So hope everybody had a good holidays. I spent some time with my family, came back up here, and I kind of spent a mini vacation in my garage with my car, pretending to be a mechanic. So somebody asked a while ago, actually, about the story of my driving the S2000 on the track. Tracking my S2000, or really even before that, I was tracking my motorcycle, is one of my non-computer hobbies. I'm also scuba certified, and I like to poke holes in paper from a distance, just Texas things. So tracking a car is not like NASCAR. It's not drag racing. It's like a road course, like a squiggly course. Okay, so it's like F1 racing, basically. So you can actually track at F1 tracks. It's just in the United States, F1 racing is, for whatever reason, not that popular. We all like NASCAR for some reason. So, but there is an F1 track actually in Austin, here in Texas, CODA, which you could go and track your car at, but it's like $3,000 for a weekend, so I can't afford that. So anyway, and actually, I just retired. Ooh, here we go. My helmet. I use that for tracking my motorcycle, which was the first thing that I took to a track, and then I ended up deciding motorcycles were dangerous, so I got out of the motorcycle kind of scene, got the S2000, and have been tracking that ever since. I love that car. So lots of fun, and yeah, this weekend I put up a lift in my garage. I also put in a cold air intake and a new radiator. The old radiator was fine. It was just too thin, and it gets really hot here in Texas, and my coolant was just, which is mostly actually the last coolant was pure distilled water, and it was still boiling like nuts. So yeah, because it just gets really hot here in Texas, and you're running your car on the track, and it just gets unbelievably hot. Anyway, it's not a car channel, so we'll continue along. Just hanging out here in my garage with my 15-year-old Honda. A lot of fun to drive around the flatlands of Texas. But you know what I like more than materialistic things? Knowledge. For those of you with ad blockers, that probably made no sense. So this next question from Philip, I'll just call him Philip. How do you deal with procrastination? I'm trying to switch from my 40 hours a week in the office to working on my own startup, where I'm my own manager, and procrastination and perfectionism are my main issues. Still looking for a solution. These books and advices about time management and discipline not really helping. Okay, so first of all, I guess I'll work backwards here. So first of all, the whole books thing, I mean, books are great. I would use books, though, more for motivation, not to actually glean really anything too useful. So I like to read books on startups and business and stuff, but at the same time, you got to be really careful not to become a consumer of a known business, which is selling business ideas, or selling kind of like motivational books that are startup books. So these books are it's very close to motivational speaking, and you need to be really careful that you don't just become a consumer of that material. You actually use it and leverage it. I'm not saying that's you by any means, but I know people who spend way too much time reading books and way too little time actually doing the business, because you'll learn so much more by working on business. But if you read and listen to books along the way, it can be super helpful and also just motivating. It helps you get your energy going, which then leads us to procrastination and perfectionism. So perfectionism, I don't really have a great answer for that, other than something I mentioned a long time ago, which is basically the whole "don't worry, be crappy, don't worry, be hacky," whoever you want to listen to on that one. The most important thing is you ship out whatever your product is and get feedback from your users as soon as possible, because you think you know what's best, but you almost certainly don't. Now, procrastination, again, still working backwards here. That's really hard, and that changes over time. So initially, the way I dealt with procrastination is I didn't, because initially when I started, I had just lost, going all the way further back, I started my own businesses, when I was like 12. But this was just like side cash, right? When 12, I'm living at home all the way up to 18. That was just pure cash. I had no bills. And then I go off to college, and I'm making a little bit more money. My parents were helping me, so it was still good enough to just be making side cash. And then my parents started pulling away money. And at that point, I had to get a part-time job through college. And then it was if I recall right, my junior year in college, I was a waiter. and the place just went out of business one day. Like, no warning. I saw it coming personally, but the business itself gave me absolutely no warning. They just went out of business and sent me a letter like a day before I was supposed to show up to work. Like, by the way, we closed. Here's your check. Great. Yeah. So yeah, whenever people ask me like, isn't running your own business like more risky than getting a job, I have to laugh at it, because it's like, I know when I run my own business, I know exactly where I am financially. And I know what I can predict out into the future, but a lot of people are just way too comfy and feel way too secure in their job. You can lose your job at like any moment, and you never see it coming, and because that's how it's built in. The system is built to make sure you don't see it coming before you lose your job or you get laid off. So anyway, I digress. So with procrastination, for me, when I started, I did not have time to procrastinate. I was living not paycheck to paycheck. I was living payment to payment, like daily payments. Okay. That's how close I was. And I was like, basically, I was slowly losing money over time. And there was times where I was like a week or 2 weeks away from being just out of money, being totally broke. So that is very motivating. Now, as time has gone on and I've made enough money to the point where at least I can pay my bills, Now you have to be self-motivating, because you don't absolutely have to work. You do have a choice, right? You could lounge around or whatever. And so it's actually almost harder once you start making more money. It's easier to just kind of like sit back. So that is where you got to be self-motivated. And a lot of times there with procrastination, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, sometimes, working 80 hours a week is great because you can get a lot of stuff done, but at the same time, it is taxing on the body, and no different than like if you're going from 40 hours a week to 80 hours a week, let's say on your own startup. You wouldn't try to do that in any other field. Like, you wouldn't, be someone who, bench presses 120 pounds and then suddenly you decide, I'm going to go up to 240, right? Like, you can't just make that change. You have to slowly work up to that point. And it's really the same thing with running your own businesses. You've got to like ramp up, because you're probably not conditioned to do that. So yeah, there's that. And then also just the fact that you say you're switched from a 40 hours a week, I'm going to guess, sorry, it's a whole assumption phrase, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that you've got a cushion of cash, because that's usually what people recommend. Like, make sure you don't burn bridges, make sure you don't leave your job until you're totally ready to, and you've got a nice cash stack in reserves because you need it. And that's good, but also bad, because like I was saying before, there's nothing more motivating than being out of money. So yeah, but businesses fail. So that's the other thing, is like, I definitely wouldn't want to be out of money until there was at least a little bit of traction in some business. But anyway, yeah, so those are my thoughts. Trying to think if there's really anything else I want to add to that, but I think that's about it. So, I mean, I guess the other thing too with procrastination, a lot of times you just have to like kind of think about why are you procrastinating? Is it because you legit need a break, or you gotta pay attention to other things too, like to run at maximum efficiency. Your body is a machine, so you got to make sure you've got proper diet, exercise, sleep. What about stress? Those kinds of things. So if you feel like you need to procrastinate, the first thing you should think about is, okay, how's my diet? How's my sleep schedule? How's my exercise? And do I have any stresses? If the answer to all those are no, then feel free to procrastinate, because it sounds like you just need a break probably. If any of those is yes, you still can procrastinate, but while you're procrastinating, you need to solve those problems, like work on the stressors in your life, fix your sleep schedule, eat the right stuff, whatever, kind of work out a plan. So at least for me, that's kind of the way, what I usually think about is I will procrastinate, but I also want to address, why am I procrastinating right now? Why am I doing this? Anyways, hopefully that helps. If anybody has any more questions for the Q&A, feel free to leave them below. Otherwise, I'll see you in another video.